Green light's on now. All right. That means it's working. Shabbat shalom. This week's Torah portion is, it said Pinchas. Can't look at my marking place. It was from Zach's Torah portion a few weeks ago. That's not right. But this week is from Numbers 25 through Numbers 25:10 through Numbers 29:40. And then the half Torah is Jeremiah 1:2 through 3. And the Gospels was Luke 13:1 through 10. Go through an overview of it, just a quick overview. Started out coming off the end of last week's Torah portion where they got up with the Midianites and committed adultery in the temple of the false gods, and Phinehas went and got them and made atonement for them, but there was still a plague sent and 24,000 were killed. But they restored the rest of Israel because of what Phinehas did, and I believe he also prayed for them, and we'll get more into that here in a little bit. But after the plague, there was a census taken of those 20 years and older, a little bit more detailed than in the past. For instance, they talk about Reuben. They also talked about his sons, Hanok and Polio. Sorry if I'm mispronouncing those names. I am from the Carolinas and can barely speak English, much less another language. Get somebody. All right. See, each number and given land, and it was 601,000. We'll get more than that in a second. And then the daughters of Telblab said, "Hey, our father died. It wasn't because of what Korah did. It was another sin, but he died. What about our land? We got no inheritance." All right. So they got the issue resolved and said, "Okay, closest family member, you can inherit the land." Then 27, Moshe is sent up to the, Jehovah takes Moshe and says, "All right, you got to get out." I'm going to read a little bit of that. So then chapter 28 details the offerings. And then 29, the feast. Fall feast coming up. But I was just something funny out there. Just as I noticed, I'm thinking, man, I kept saying 7 sheep for this offering and 7 sheep. Man, they had a lot of sheep back then. I don't think what animal I thought of, but anyway. So, but what stood out was kind of go to chapter 27, verse 12. I'm going to read it. And it said, and Jehovah said to Moshe, "Go up into this Mount Abraham and see the land which I have given to the children of Israel. And when you have seen it, you also shall be gathered to your people as Aaron your brother was gathered. Because you rebelled against my mouth in the wilderness and in sin and a strife of the congregation to set me apart as the waters before their eyes. These were the waters of Meribah at Kadesh and the wilderness of Sin." And Moshe spoke to Jehovah, saying, "Let Jehovah, the Elohim of the spirits and all flesh, appoint a man over the congregation who goes out before them and comes before them, who leads them out and brings them in, so that the congregation of Jehovah be not like the sheep without a shepherd." That reminded me of another prayer in Matthew chapter 9. Where Yeshua said, "And Yeshua went out about all the cities and villages, teaching in their congregations and proclaiming the good news of the reign, and healing every disease and every bodily weakness among the people. And having seen the crowds, he was moved with compassion for them, because they were weary and scattered as sheep having no shepherd. Then he said to his taught ones, The harvest truly is great, but the workers are few. Pray then that the master of the harvest send out workers to his harvest." I was like, man, a lot of times we get in the mindset of me instead of the mindset of thee. I grew up in a King James only church, so it's okay. Some of you get that. But I'm thinking if I was in Moses' place, there's 600,000. That was just, I believe, the men, so some estimates up to 3 million people. I'm like, 3 million people always complaining every day. Some of you just want your spouse to hush for 5 minutes. And I'm single. Sometimes I just want my dogs to quit barking. Somebody said I was honest. But anyway, you think, I just struck the rock. I'm dealing with 3 million people that just won't listen to me and won't talk back. I'm telling them I'm speaking for you. What would you say? My first thought would have been about me. Moses' first thought, what about them? They need somebody. They need some help. Then I thought about Yeshua's message. I thought it was beautiful. They prayed over the teens, the younger ones before the congregation. I remember when I was in Virginia Beach in early to mid-2000s when I got out of the Navy, I was working a bus route. And we went to some Section 8 housing, so some of the kids weren't brought up in church. They weren't brought up. And so, one kid brought his skateboard to church. I actually rode it 10 miles to church that night, but somebody missed that point. You need to quit bringing those kids to church. They're a disturbance. I didn't listen, but it was just like, man, this generation, look at all they got to deal with that we don't have to deal with. Think about, I left my phone down there, but man, somebody always sticking a phone in your face, all this stuff, all this garbage going on. Pray for the next generation. Thought about Moses' words, the sheep, the having shepherd, but, they said, like the spirit of me, my ministry, my Torah portion. No, it's the Lord's. What about them? What about him? What about them? We should pray for one another. Shabbat shalom.